And so when you go to the store to buy milk, I don't know if you're aware of this, but all of the milk that you buy in the store, after 3 to 5 years, those cows are slaughtered. And those cows become the hamburgers in the fast food restaurants. The meat from a dairy cow is considered inferior to the meat of a cow which was raised for slaughter from the very beginning. So they use this to make hamburger meat. It's like a very poor quality of meat. Of course, we've been vegetarian now for 30 years, since we were 15 years old. But when you drink the milk from a cow which will be slaughtered, this is a problem. You know, like if you drink the milk from your mother and then you kill her when she can no longer provide you milk, this is like a very bad thing. And so we recognized this, and our temple started a Goshala some years back, and every drop of milk, ghee, butter, yogurt that's used in our temple, that we consume, is only from these protected cows. And so between the Goshala and the 2 temples and the restaurant in Long Beach, we stay busy. Rupanuga Prabhu and myself, we work together. He's more generally known as Dr. Ravi Katuria. He's a chair-holding professor at Chapman University who specializes in business and operations and systems management. And so he's here today. We'll see if he has a chance to speak. Anyway, my presentation, generally speaking, and this would be true for all of you as well, generally speaking, if you're a Hindu, then the philosophy you follow is, generally speaking, it's neo-Hindu. Hinduism has changed dramatically in the last 120 years. Hinduism was relatively consistent for thousands of years, but things changed dramatically, and Hinduism gave birth to neo-Hinduism. Neo-Hinduism are ideas which are loosely based on the Vedas, but also have a host of other influences. Now, it's not possible to engage with other cultures and not be influenced. And generally speaking, conservative elements within the tradition, they attempt to preserve that tradition, but conservative elements are usually bad at adaptation. So you wind up with a very small group of people who are extremely strict. Liberal elements in the tradition are very concerned with adaptation, with new membership, with spreading the teachings. They're usually very good at reaching out to people, but they tend to be very bad at preserving the original teachings. And so these 2 forces, conservative and liberal elements, like a Dakshin and a Vama, Marg, they have to sort of join together in order for a movement to preserve its integrity and also move forward. So, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Have you ever heard that there are 4 yogas in Hinduism? Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Raja Yoga. Have you heard this before? You must have heard this. If you buy a textbook, a college-level textbook on Hinduism, this is what they teach. If you get an encyclopedia, this is what they teach. If you take an introductory course to Hinduism in any university in the world, they will teach about these 4 yogas. So Karma Yoga is for people who are very active, Jnana Yoga is for intellectuals, and then Bhakti Yoga is for very emotional people, and then Raj Yoga is for people who are interested in meditation. Does anybody know where that idea comes from? Should be from Shastra, right? Should be, right? It's like a standard model in any university text you get. We all learned it growing up, and we've accepted it. But where does that idea come from? Bhagavad-Gita. It actually doesn't come from Gita.
It comes from various Upanishads and...
It also doesn't come from the Upanishads.
Patanjali.
It doesn't come from Patanjali. All really, I mean, obviously, these are all, we would expect that the Yoga Sutras, right? We would expect that the Yoga Upanishads, right? We would expect that Gita taught this, right? We would expect this. It's not the case. In sharp contrast, Krishna says, Karmi Bhyas Shadiko Yogi. One yogi is greater than, he's adhika, he's greater than Karmi Bhya, all the karmas. Jnani Bhyo Pimatodika. That I also consider him to be greater than all the jnanis. Yogi is in singular. The other words are in plural. So one yogi is greater than all the karmis. I also consider him to be greater than all the jnanis. Jnani Bhyo Api Mataha Adhika. Then Tapasvi Bhyo Adhiko Yogi. One yogi is greater than all the tapasvis. Tasmat yogi bhavarjuna. Therefore be a yogi. So in the Gita, when Krishna does discuss these terms, he puts them into a hierarchy. He says the yogi is above all these other classes. Then what kind of yogi? Yogi nam api sarvesham. Next verse. Of all the yogis, madgatena antar atmana. One who, like, with his whole being, makes me the goal. Makes me the goal. Shadavan bhajate yomam. And that person worships me. Shadavan. He's Shadavan. Yes, Shadha. Bhajate. Bhajate, of course, is from Bhaj. That's where you get the word bhakti from. Same yukta tamaha mataha. I consider him to be the greatest yoga person. Yukta means yoga. I consider him the most. Yukta tama, the most yoga. Tama in Sanskrit means most. Tara means more. These terms will be important in a moment. So when Krishna is discussing with Arjuna, he says the bhakti yogi is above. First he says the yogi is above everybody. And of all those yogis, the bhakti yogi is the best. He's yukta tama. He does not present these four yogas as equivalent. Rather, he creates a hierarchy where one is above the others. This is amazing. So then we can ask, where? Of course, the word Raja Yoga is not even used in, it's a recent term. It began to be used in the 15th century. Raja Vidya is there in Gita. But Raj Yoga is a modern term, only 500 years old. Not even in the Yoga Sutras. It's not in the Yoga Upanishad either. Maitri Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, none of these have this term. Where does it come from? It comes from Vivekananda. He made it up 121 years ago in a book he wrote called Raja Yoga. He introduced this idea. The idea may be correct. The idea may not be correct. That's another subject. But the idea is extremely modern. It uses Sanskrit terminology. Just like if you go and study yoga, yogasana, they have so many asanas. Trikona asana, triangle asana. And so, many of these terms, they're Sanskrit terms, so you think, oh, must be old. Must be a very old term. But they just made the term up 50 years ago, 60 years ago. They invented an asana, they gave it a Sanskrit name, and then everybody thinks it's very the model of four yogas as being the way to understand Hinduism. This is a recent model that was invented by Vivekananda. Of course, the word yoga, interesting. The word yoga first occurs in the Rig Veda. Do you know what the word yoga means in the Rig Veda?
Union.
It does not. It does not. Yoga means war. In the Rig Veda, in the first instance of the term yoga being used in the oldest Vedic text, it means war. And it's used with another term, kshema, peace. War and peace, yoga kshema. This is how the term is used. There's a reason. Yoga comes from yuj, which means to link, so yoga means union. So when you would go to battle, you would take your horse and you would link it up to your chariot. And those two things come together, and that was called yoga in the Rig Veda. When the chariot is linked to the horse. In fact, the English word yoke, when you yoke an animal, like if you have a harness for a plow, that's called a yoke. And then you attach the animal to the plow, the instrument which does that is called a yoke. That comes from the word yoga. So the term yoga means union, but its original usage was uniting a horse with a chariot. In Upanishads, the term began to be used to talk about uniting the soul with God. But in the first instance, that's how the term... So that's where the term yoga comes from. You were asking? That's where the term yoga... It goes all the way back to the Rig Veda. And it's there at every stratum of literature. It's there in the Samhitas, the Brahmanas, the Aranyakas, and the Upanishads. But the model of 4 yogas, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Raja Yoga. Vivekananda liked Raja Yoga. So he added that one. This 4 model that's used in every university to study Hinduism, that we all learned from the time we were very young. That model is only 121 years old. You do not find it in any of the Tikas. You do not find it in any of the Shastras. Certainly the term yoga is used. Certainly the term karma, jnana, and bhakti are used in various places. But not this 4-fold model that this is like Hinduism. Traditional models for studying Hinduism would be Shakta, Shaiva, Vaishnava. These would be the traditional models which are used to study the tradition and have been used for thousands of years to understand the various schools of Hinduism. Shaktas, they worship Shakti. And Shaivas, they worship Shiva. And Vaishnavas, they worship Vishnu. This would be a much more classical frame to use in order to study our tradition. So what happens is, sometimes neo-Hindu philosophers, they come up with something. They may be right, they may be wrong. That's another subject. But they introduce something, they Sanskritize it. They use a Sanskrit name. Like for instance, you've all heard of Surya Namaskar, right? Surya Namaskar, right? Surya Namaskar was invented in 1908 by the Maharaj of Aum. It comes from Indian wrestling. The Dand and the Baitak. The squat and the push-up in Indian wrestling. You see this. I mean, most of you probably wrestled when you grew up. Right? And he'd always do squats, then he'd do push-ups, right? He put those 2 together, he made Surya Namaskar. But he gave it a fancy Sanskrit name. Now it's like, oh, Surya Namaskar is as old as the Veda. It's Aparushaya. It's not created by man. Sure it was. It was created, what is it, 109 years ago. You follow? Maharaj in India. And he was a fan of wrestling. He was a fan of British gymnastics. He was a fan of British calisthenics, Swedish gymnastics. And he put this together and he made a pose. But he gave it a fancy Sanskrit name. And everybody thinks it's as old as the Veda. Then they'll go, no! Surya Namaskar is in Rig Veda. Praying to Surya Deva is in Rig Veda. You follow? But the push-up and the squat, calling that Surya Namaskar, that's 100 years old. So, most of the time, when neo-Hindu philosophers want to teach their teachings, they write a book, they write a novel, and they will include some elements of Shastra in their novel. But it's really their own darshan that they're presenting. It's their own ideas. You follow? They may be right, but they are taking advantage of an ancient culture and representing that their teachings are authentic because they're very, very old. And then people assume, because they say in the kingdom of the blind, this is saying in English, in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man becomes king. So if you don't know anything, then you don't know what is Shastra, what is not, what is proper, what is not. So when a neo-Hindu philosopher encounters a new audience, they present, this is Veda. And then people accept. They write novels because those lend themselves to them kind of giving their own teachings. Maybe they make some reference, like Deepak Chopra, he makes some reference to something Vedic. But it's very much his own understanding of things. And he may be right. That's not really, I haven't come here to critique anybody's teachings. But there is a traditional way to study Shastra. And that is verse by verse, word by word. And you look at what the Shastra actually says. Like, for instance, if you get a politician and you say to the politician, what are you doing? What are you doing about Hurricane Harvey? It's a hurricane that just hit the coast of Texas. Very, very, horrible hurricane. Of course, only 40, 50 people lost their lives. In other countries of the world, tens of thousands of people might have died. Our country is relatively good, at least, at keeping people from dying. They fly in with helicopters and rescue people. But it was a huge tragedy. It had the potential of killing tens of thousands of people. So you may ask a politician, what are you doing about Hurricane Harvey? And he will say, the real hurricane is too many taxes. I want to reduce the taxes and save the world. You understand? The real hurricane is not enough schools. We have to build more schools. Whatever you say, they will take it and they'll turn it around and they'll say what they want to. They're famous for doing this. So, I don't like to twist Shastra. I like to just study what Shastra says. And I've spent the last 30 years studying Gita every day. Maybe I've read Gita 1,000 times now, probably. Some parts maybe several thousand times. I read Gita every day. I've read it through at least 1,000 times. I've read all the commentaries. I've read them in Sanskrit. And I study Gita. It's like a passion of mine. So, I will say this also. If someone says, this is what Gita says, but then they present their own teaching, you follow? There's only one of two possible conclusions. This person does not know Gita. Then they are mudha. They're confused. They should not be guru. The other possibility is they know Gita and they are purposefully twisting the teachings. You follow? This is kuniti. This is bad diplomacy, duplicit behavior. Then they're also not guru. It's one thing if I say, this is my teaching. It's another thing if I say, my teaching is Krishna's teaching. You follow? Then if someone knows Krishna's teaching, they can say, no, what you're saying is incorrect. And this then disqualifies the person. It's one thing if you write your book and say, this is my darshan. But if you attempt to co-opt the teachings of Shastra to provide you with some legitimacy and validation, this is dishonest. And it begins to call into question the character of the person who does it. You can see my question. Supreme instruction, greatest secret. I was very purposeful in my language. Supreme instruction, greatest secret. You keep that in mind for a moment. We're at the end of the Gita here. You can see what Krishna says. Iti te jnanam akhyatam. I have taught to you knowledge. I have explained to you knowledge. Te means to you, jnanam. Akhyatam, I have explained knowledge. Thus I have explained knowledge to you. Guhyataram maya. By me, I have explained this knowledge, which is guhyatara, more secret, guhyat, than the secret. I have explained knowledge, which is guhyatara, more secret. Tara means more, greater. More secret, guhyat, than the secret. Vimrishaita, asheshena. You consider this fully. Asheshena, completely. This knowledge you consider. Vimrisha etat asheshana. Asheshena. You consider this fully. Yata ichasi. Whatever you desire, whatever you want. As much as you like. Tata karu. That much you do. This is Krishna's statement towards the end of the Gita. Practically speaking, this looks like Krishna should finish the Gita on this verse. Because he's putting the ball in Arjuna's court, and he's saying, I taught you more secret than the secret. Now whatever you like, you do. You think about it, you consider, it's up to you. Well, of course you see Krishna here honoring the free will of Arjuna. Not attempting to force him. You must do this, you have to do this. That's not there. This is a conversation. Krishna has made a persuasive appeal to Arjuna, and he's asking him now to consider his proposal and do what he wants to do. Yata and tata in Sanskrit are co-relatives. As much this, that much that. Yata ichasi, as much as you like, tata kuru, that much you do. But the next verse is very interesting. Practically we should be done. But now the next verse. Sarva guhyatamam buyaha. Sarva guhyatama. The greatest of all secrets. The greatest of all secrets. Buyaha, again. The greatest of all secrets again. Shunu me, listen to me. Paramam vachaha. My supreme instruction. My supreme statement. My supreme doctrine. You see these words? Guhyatama, greatest secret. Not just Guhyatama. The last one was Guhyatara Guhyat. More secret than the secret. This verse says Sarva Guhyatama, the greatest of all secrets. So when I said, what is the greatest secret of Gita? Krishna says, this is the greatest secret of Gita. Then he says, Shunu me. He's not saying as much as you like, that much you do. He's saying, Shunu me, listen to me. It's in the imperative. Very rarely used by Krishna in the Gita. When he instructs, do this. Shunu me, listen to me. Paramam vachaha, it's my supreme statement. Ishta asime dridhamiti. Because you are dridha ishta. Because you are so beloved by me, so dear to me. Tato vakshami. Therefore I'm speaking. Kehitam. For your benefit. So if you want to know what is the supreme instruction of Gita and what is the greatest secret of Gita, this verse tells you, and you should be like holding your breath on the edge of your seat, wondering which verse is going to come next. Because that next verse is the greatest secret, the supreme instruction of Gita. This is what the Mimamsakas do. The Mimamsakas are the opposite of the Neo-Hindus. They don't take a couple of words and cobble something together and say this is it. They painstakingly and meticulously go through an ancient text to understand the intention of an author. This is a whole field of study, hermeneutics. How to understand what a book is saying. But Krishna does not make it particularly difficult. If you want to know the greatest secret, if you want to know the supreme instruction, you just have to read the next verse. There is no other verse in the entire Gita which is set up using this type of language. And the fact that Krishna just said, do what you want to do, and then still says this, you almost get the feeling that Krishna loves Arjuna so much that he could not bear to let him go without saying it again. Bhuya, again, one more time. So what is the next verse? Manmana, think of me. Bhava mad bhaktaha, be my bhakta. Think of me, be my bhakta. Madhyaji, worship me. Mam namaskuru, offer your namaskar to me. Mam eva esyasi, you will come to me. You will certainly come to me. Satyam te, you will, it's truly, you will truly come to me. You will certainly come to me, you will truly come to me. Prachijane, I promise. Priyo asi me, because you are so dear to me, so beloved to me. This is the greatest secret of Gita. This is the most important instruction of Gita. How do we know? Because Krishna says it. Now, if somebody says there's another greatest secret of Gita, they are going against the author of the text. You follow? If you want to go against the author of the text, then just say, I don't accept Gita. And then present your own teaching as the greatest teaching, as the greatest instruction, as the greatest secret. But if you say it's the greatest secret of Gita, you don't get to just say whatever you want. Because you're dealing with a text. And Krishna has spoken very clearly in Sanskrit. This is not difficult language to understand. The Gita is relatively simple Sanskrit. It's not complicated. It's not like Kavya or something like that. It's not like Champu. It's not like some really fancy text. It's the first thing you learn when you learn to read Sanskrit. This type of a text is the first text you can learn. It's so clear. It's so definitive. Krishna is so specific. So Krishna's ultimate teaching is to become a bhakta, to do bhakti. This, of course, is taught in every chapter of Gita. Maybe we'll go through that. I can show for each chapter of Gita. There are 3-4 verses like this in each chapter of Gita about bhakti. This is the most emphatic, but bhakti is always treated in a special way. This is more important. This is more special. But here he's saying it's the most special, the greatest secret, the supreme instruction. If you have some other darshan, that is just fine. That's just fine. But if you say you are representing Krishna, if you follow the Prasthana Traya, if you follow the 3 main texts, you follow? If you follow the 3 main texts, right? The Prasthana Traya, that have been followed by all Vedantins for thousands of years, then the Gita you have to reconcile your teaching with. You cannot skip over the parts that do not agree with you. You have to change your mindset to come in line with the Gita. Otherwise you're not following Krishna. And then why would you bother saying what the Gita teaches? You just say this is what I teach. Better to honestly disagree with Gita than to dishonestly pretend that you are representing. Just to make it more emphatic, Krishna says, Sarva Dhamma Priyaja, give up all Dharma. This is very clear. Reject, give up all Dharma. It's a very heavy statement from Krishna. It's like unbelievable statement from Krishna. Give up all Dharma. Mam ekam sharanam braja. You braja, go! Again, he's speaking in the imperative. Go! Take shelter of me exclusively. Mam ekam, do one thing. Sharanam, take shelter. Mam, me. Braja, go do it now. Why? Because aham tvam sava papebhya, because all your sins. Mokshayishami, I will liberate you. Aham tvam, I to you. Mokshayishami, I will liberate you. I will liberate you. Mokshayishami is in the future tense. First person, singular. I will liberate you. I will give you moksha. Mashucha, do not fear. Do not fear. Now that we know what the greatest teaching of Krishna is, we can ask what action is most pleasing to Krishna and who is most dear to Krishna. Now you should understand that I'm not asking those questions arbitrarily. I've chosen my language very, very specifically. What action is most pleasing to Krishna and who is most dear to Krishna. You see I'm using these words, most. Right? Let's find out. Ya idam paramam guhyam. This supreme secret, Yah, one who, with idam paramam guhyam, this greatest secret to become my devotee. Madbhakteshu abhidhasyati, one who presents this to the bhaktas, to my devotees. One who presents this greatest secret of manmana bhavama bhakto, of becoming my devotee. One who presents this. Bhakti mai param kritva. He has done the greatest bhakti. Now you can ask, if you misrepresent Krishna's teachings, then you also may be doing the greatest something. You may be doing the greatest disservice to Krishna. And that person, mameva esyasi asamshaya, mameva esyati asamshaya, he comes to me. Doubtlessly, without any doubt, he comes to me. Finally, tasman manusheshu, amongst mankind. Amongst mankind. Me priya krit tamaha, who has done something which is more dear to me. Again, the suffix tamaha, which means most. There's no one in the world amongst mankind that has done something which is more dear to me. Bhavita nacha me tasmat anya priyataro bhuvihi. And on the surface of the earth, more dear, another who's more dear to me? Nachas me tasmat bhavita. There will never be one more dear to me on the surface of the earth than the person who teaches this supreme secret to become Krishna's devotee. This is the greatest secret. It is Bhuhyatama. It's also his supreme instruction, Paramam Vacha. What is that instruction? Bhavamat Bhakta. Be a devotee. The person who teaches that, Bhakti Mai Param Kripa, he's done the greatest bhakti. And that person is Me Priya Krita Maha. He's the most dear to me. And there will never be one more dear. It's very clear. The Gita is not a complicated text. It becomes complicated if you have another darshan and you want to fit a square peg into a round hole and superimpose your understanding on Gita. And so my presentation is that we should at some point in our lives go back and figure out what we learned of Hinduism, what from that is 100 years old, what from that is 120 years old, and what from that is many, many thousands of years old, and take the trouble to look at what the original text says, and then we're no longer blind, and then the one-eyed man does not become king. Because we can fairly adjudicate and judge who is representing the teachings properly. Thank you for allowing me to present this. Yes, sir.